Why have you studied vocabulary for 10 long years, but still freeze in complete panic when a native speaker opens their mouth? Today, we expose the biggest lie in English education.
It is not your vocabulary that is the problem. It is the invisible glue holding our sentences together. And until you learn this secret of connected speech, you will always remain an outsider listening in.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Daisy, a teacher from London, and sitting across from me is Professor Peter Hanson, a veteran linguistics professor from New York University. Peter, you really came in swinging today. That is a heavy statement, an outsider listening in. Before we dive into the technical details of connected speech, I want to slow down and do a quick step-by-step breakdown of the phrase you just used. You said our listeners might remain an outsider listening in. To be an outsider means you are not part of the group, you are excluded. Listening in means you are secretly or quietly hearing a conversation that you are not actively participating in. So, to be an outsider listening in paints a very sad, frustrating picture of a student who desperately wants to join a conversation but simply cannot keep up. Is that exactly what you see in your classrooms in New York?
It is the single most heartbreaking phenomenon I have witnessed in my 30 years of teaching at the university level. Let me tell you a detailed story from back in 1998 to illustrate exactly what I mean. I was teaching an advanced academic writing course. My students were brilliant. They were future doctors, engineers, and diplomats from all over the world. I had one particular student, a highly gifted software engineer named Kenji. Kenji had memorized the dictionary. I am not exaggerating, Daisy. The man knew words that even I, a native speaker and professor, had to double-check. He could write a 30-page dissertation on complex computer architecture using flawless, sophisticated grammar. But one crisp autumn morning, Kenji came into my office looking absolutely devastated. I asked him to sit down, and I asked him what was wrong. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said he had just failed his third job interview of the month.
Oh, that is terrible. But if his vocabulary was so brilliant and his grammar was flawless, how could he fail a job interview? Did he lack technical skills?
Not at all. He failed because of the invisible glue we're talking about today. During the interview, the hiring manager, a fast-talking native New Yorker, leaned over the desk and said, "What are you going to do if the server goes down?" But he did not say it like a textbook. He said, "What you going to do if the server goes down?" Kenji froze. He heard the word whatcha and mentally searched his massive internal dictionary for a vocabulary word spelled W-A-T-C-H-A. He thought it was a technical term. He panicked, started sweating, and asked the interviewer to repeat the question. The interviewer, thinking he was being helpful, slowed down slightly but still used connected speech. He said, "I mean, what you're going to do to fix it." Kenji was totally lost. He gave a confusing answer, the interviewer lost confidence in his communication skills, and he did not get the job. That was the day I realized that traditional English education is fundamentally broken. We teach students individual bricks, but we never teach them the mortar that holds the bricks together.
That story is a massive wake-up call for anyone listening right now. Let us break down the idiom you just used, because it is incredibly important. You said we teach students individual bricks, but we never teach them the mortar that holds the bricks together. In construction, a brick is the solid block used to build a wall, and mortar is the wet paste that hardens and sticks the bricks together. Metaphorically speaking, the bricks are the individual vocabulary words you study on flashcards. The mortar is connected speech, the way native speakers blend, stretch, and merge those words together into one continuous stream of sound. Without the mortar, your wall will collapse. Without connected speech, your listening comprehension will collapse the second a native speaker talks at normal speed. So, Peter, what exactly is the mechanism of this mortar? How do native speakers connect words? Let's start with the most common type.
The absolute foundation of connected speech is called consonant to vowel linking. This happens when a word ends with a consonant sound and the very next word begins with a vowel sound. Native speakers do not pause between these words. Instead, we take the final consonant of the first word and attach it to the beginning of the second one. It's a completely unconscious habit. For example, take the phrase an apple. A native speaker does not say an, pause, apple. We push the N sound onto the A. It becomes an apple. Let me give you a more complex example from my classroom. A student wants to say, stop it. They usually pronounce the P, stop, then they pause, and then they say it. A native speaker takes the P from stop and glues it to the I in it. It sounds like stop it, stop it.
Let me break this down very slowly for our listeners. If you are reading the words S-T-O-P space I-T, your brain tells you there are two separate words, but your ears are hearing something completely different. You are hearing S-T-O-P-I-T, as if it's one long, strange word. This is why you feel like you don't know enough vocabulary. You actually know the words stop and it, but you don't recognize the connected shape of them. Peter, I know this is a global phenomenon in English, but I want to pivot here and spend some serious time discussing the massive differences between how your American students connect words and how we do it here in Britain, because I think this is where students get truly lost.
The Great Transatlantic Divide. You are absolutely right, Daisy. The rules of the mortar change depending on which side of the ocean you're on. In American English, we have a very aggressive way of modifying our consonants to make the speech flow faster. The most famous example is the American flap T. When a T sound comes between two vowel sounds, Americans do not pronounce it as a sharp, crisp T. We soften it into a fast D sound.
Yes, exactly. And this drives my students absolutely crazy. Let us debate this for a moment, because the British approach is entirely different. Let us use the classic example, the word water, W-A-T-E-R. In standard British English, or received pronunciation, we maintain a very clear, sharp T sound. We say water, water. We also don't pronounce the R at the end, which is a whole different issue, but that T is sharp. How would a New Yorker say it?
A New Yorker, or any American really, will look at that T sitting between the A and the E, and our brains instantly convert it to a D to save physical energy in the mouth. We say water, water. It sounds exactly like the word for a person who wades in a pool. This flap T happens everywhere in American connected speech, not just inside single words, but across word boundaries. This is where it gets incredibly dangerous for learners. If I want to say, put it in the box, put ends with a T, it begins with an I. That T is now trapped between the U in put and the I in it. So an American says, put it in the box.
Put it. That honestly sounds like a type of dessert, a pudit. If a student is listening for the word put, they will never, ever hear it. Let us break that down again. Put it in. British English would maintain the T, though we might use a glottal stop. A modern Londoner might say, put it in the box. We swallow the T completely into the back of the throat, put it. We don't turn it into a D, we just erase the consonant and replace it with a sudden stop of airflow.
A glottal stop, yes. And to an American ear, the British glottal stop sounds almost aristocratic, or sometimes extremely informal, depending on the region. But let's go deeper into this debate. What about the intrusive R? This is a British habit that absolutely baffles my American students when they watch British television. You add letters that don't even exist in the spelling.
Guilty as charged. The intrusive R is a fascinating feature of British connected speech. When a word ends in a vowel sound, specifically sounds like ah or and the next word begins with a vowel, British speakers hate the awkward pause between them. It feels physically uncomfortable to our mouths. So we invent a sound to bridge the gap. We insert an R sound. The most famous example is the phrase law and order, LAW space AND. There is no R at the end of law, but a British native speaker will almost always say and order, and order. We build a bridge with an invisible R. Another example is saying I saw a film. We say I saw a film.
That's incredible, because in American English, we do the exact opposite. We are heavily rhotic, meaning we pronounce every single written R with an aggressive, hard sound, like car, park, hard. But we never invent an R where it does not belong. If an American says law and order, we connect it using a W glide. We say law wand order, law wand order.
Law wand. That is brilliant. Let us do a slow breakdown of what a glide is, because our listeners need to understand this. A glide is a very smooth, slippery sound, usually a W or a Y sound, that we naturally produce when our lips move from one vowel position to another. Try saying the word go, and then the word out. Go out. If you say it slowly, go out, your lips naturally form a W sound in the middle. Go out. This happens in both British and American English.
Exactly. And understanding glides, flap T's, and consonant linking is what transforms you from an outsider listening in to an insider who can comfortably sit at the table. But Daisy, I want to pause the technical linguistics for a moment, because I think we need to have a serious mentorship segment right now. Knowing the mechanics is only 20% of the battle. The other 80% is deeply psychological.
I completely agree. Let us shift gears into a mentorship segment. Listeners, grab a pen and paper, because Professor Hanson is going to give you advice that could save you years of frustration. Peter, what is the biggest psychological barrier that stops students from using connected speech?
The biggest barrier is perfectionism, combined with a deep, paralyzing fear of sounding uneducated. Let me explain. For years, students are taught by traditional textbooks that formal, robotic English is good and fast, connected English is bad, lazy, or sloppy. I have had brilliant students refuse to say what you're gonna do because they feel it damages their dignity. They think, I paid $50,000 for this university degree. I am not going to speak like a teenager on the street. They hold on to this rigid textbook pronunciation like a life raft. But here's the hard truth. Connected speech is not slang. It is not lazy. It is the highly efficient, naturally evolved acoustic reality of the English language. Even the President of the United States uses connected speech during a formal address. Even the King of England uses connected speech. If you refuse to accept it because of your perfectionism, you are choosing to remain deaf to the real language.
That is a profound point. Let us break down the phrase you used, to hold on to something like a life raft. A life raft is a small emergency boat that you use when a main ship is sinking. If you hold on to something like a life raft, it means you're desperately clinging to it for safety because you are terrified of drowning. Many students cling to their textbooks like a life raft because the real world of spoken English feels like a chaotic, dangerous ocean. But Peter is telling you that the textbook is actually what's holding you back. You have to let go of the raft and learn to swim in the natural currents of the language.
Beautifully said, Daisy. And the psychology goes even deeper. When you start trying to use connected speech, your brain is going to fight you. You will experience a massive spike in cognitive load. Cognitive load is the amount of mental energy your brain uses to process information. Right now, your brain reads, "I want to go," and processes 4 neat, organized boxes. When you try to say, "I wanna go," your brain sounds an alarm. It says, "Wait, warning, wanna is not in the dictionary. This is a mistake. Stop." You have to push through that alarm. You have to give yourself permission to sound messy for a few months. Learning a language is not a pristine, clean laboratory experiment. It is a messy, muddy, full-contact sport. You have to get in the mud.
I love that metaphor, a full contact sport. That means you are going to get bumped, you're going to get bruised, and you're going to make mistakes. Let us transition this theory into practice. We're going to do a series of practical drills. This is where you, the listener, must participate. Don't just listen to us. Speak out loud wherever you are. Peter, I want you to be the demanding New York director, and I'll be the student. Give me a complex sentence, and let us drill it using different emotional tones, because emotion changes the speed and rhythm of connected speech.
I love this exercise. Okay, Daisy, the sentence is, "What are you going to do about it?" In textbook English, that's 9 distinct syllables. What are you going to do about it? In natural American connected speech, this collapses entirely. The "what are you" turns into whatcha. The "going to" turns into gonna. The "do about it" turns into do about it. We use a flap T on the word about, so the whole sentence becomes what you gonna do about it. 5 syllables. What you gonna do about it?
Okay, let me process that. What you gonna do about it?
Good, but too robotic. I want you to say it as if you're a very angry New York taxi driver and someone just hit your car. Give me loud, aggressive, fast, connected speech.
All right, here we go. What you gonna do about it?
Better, but the D in about it needs to be sharper. Hit the D hard. Try again.
What you gonna do about it?
Excellent. Now, shift the emotion entirely. I want you to be a heartbroken mother whose child just failed out of university. You're sad, you're crying, the energy is low. Notice how the connected speech stretches out, but the connections remain.
Oh no, what you gonna do about it?
Perfect. You slowed down the vowels, whatcha gonna, but you didn't break the consonant links. You didn't revert to what are you going to do. The glue stayed intact. This is a crucial lesson for the listeners. Slowing down your speech does not mean breaking the links. Native speakers still use connected speech, even when they're speaking very slowly. Now, Daisy, give me one more tone. I want you to be a highly suspicious police detective interrogating a suspect. Very quiet, very intense.
Let me get into character. What you gonna do about it?
That was terrifying, honestly. I confess to everything, but you nailed it. The listeners need to practice this exact drill at home. Take one connected phrase and say it angry, sad, excited, and suspicious. It forces your physical mouth muscles to memorize the connected shape of the words, regardless of the speed.
Let us break down why that drill is so effective. When you add emotion, you bypass the logical, analytical part of your brain that's obsessed with spelling and grammar. Emotion lives in a different part of the nervous system. By acting out the phrase, you're forcing your brain to treat the English words as real communication tools, rather than mathematical formulas to be solved. Let us do another drill, Peter. What is another extremely common connected phrase that causes panic?
Elision. This is straight up deletion, and it terrifies students. Let's look at the phrase, "Did you eat yet?" In American English, the D and the Y at the beginning of did you merge together into a J sound. This is called palatalization. Did you becomes j. But we're incredibly lazy. We drop the did completely. We just say j. Then we connect eat and yet. The final result is 2 syllables, jeet yet. J-E-E-T space Y-E-T. Jeet yet.
If you look at that on paper, it looks like a completely different language. It looks like Dutch or German. Let me do a slow breakdown for the listeners. Did you eat yet? Step 1, palatalization. The D from did and the Y from you smash together to create a j sound. Did you becomes j. Step 2, elision. We delete the first part of the word entirely. Step 3, consonant to vowel linking. We smash the j and the eat together, jeet. Step 4, we add the yet, jeet yet. This happens millions of times a day across America and Britain. In the UK, we might say, "Do you eat yet? Do you eat yet?" We keep a bit more of the D sound, but it's still heavily compressed.
Exactly. And if you're a student waiting to hear the word did, you will fail the listening test of real life. Let me tell you another story from my consulting days. I was working with a massive corporate client in Manhattan. They had hired a brilliant financial analyst from overseas. We'll call her Maria. Maria was a genius with numbers, but she was terrified of the weekly board meetings. She told me, "Professor, the executives speak a secret language. I understand the emails perfectly, but in the meeting, I'm lost." I sat in on one of her meetings to observe. The CEO, a very fast-speaking American, asked Maria, "Can you get me the dimond report by Tuesday?" But he didn't say diamond. He elided the middle syllable. He said dimond, dimond.
Ah, syllable elision. Let us break that down. The word is spelled D-I-A-M-O-N-D, 3 syllables, mond, but native speakers often crush it into 2, dimond.
Yes, and Maria panicked. She thought dimond was the name of a specific client she had never heard of. She spent the next 10 minutes frantically searching her files for a client named Mr. Dimond. She completely missed the rest of the meeting. After the meeting, she was in tears in the hallway. She told me she was going to resign because she was not qualified. I had to sit her down and explain that she was highly qualified. She just lacked the training in elision. We spent the next month drilling nothing but dropped syllables. Family becomes family. Camera becomes camera. Chocolate becomes chocolate. Separate becomes separate. Once she understood that the native speakers were simply deleting the middle vowels, her comprehension skyrocketed. She did not need to learn a single new vocabulary word. She just needed to learn how the words she already knew sounded when they were compressed.
That story is exactly why I love having you on this podcast, Peter. It proves that the barrier to fluency is not a lack of intelligence, and it is not a lack of hard work. It is simply a lack of the right decoding key. Let us do a deep dive into another British versus American nuance regarding elision, because it causes so much confusion. Let us talk about the word laboratory. LAB-ORA-TORY.
Oh, this is a classic, a battlefield of pronunciation.
It truly is. In standard British English, we place the stress on the second syllable. We say la-BOR-a-tree. We completely drop the O before the R, and we drop the O before the Y. We compress 5 written syllables into 4 spoken ones. La-BOR-a-tree. How do you say it in New York?
In America, we shift the stress all the way to the front. We stress the first syllable, lab, and we do not drop the vowels at the end, but we do change them. We say LAB-ra-tory, laboratory. 4 syllables, completely different rhythm, completely different stress pattern. If a British scientist and an American scientist are talking, they are practically speaking 2 different dialects, and for an ESL learner caught in the middle, it is a nightmare.
A complete nightmare. And this brings us back to the mentorship aspect. How does a student listening to this right now cope with this nightmare? Should they try to learn both? Should they pick one? What is your professional advice for navigating the chaos of global connected speech?
My advice is strictly strategic. Do not try to memorize every variation in the world. That is a recipe for total burnout. You must choose one target accent based on your life goals and ignore the rest until you are fluent. If you want to work in finance in London, you listen exclusively to British connected speech. You absorb the intrusive R, the glottal stops, the dropped syllables. If you want to work in tech in California, you completely ignore British English for a year. You focus entirely on the American flap T, the rhotic R, the heavy elision. You have to put blinders on.
Let us break down that idiom, to put blinders on. Blinders are small pieces of leather that are attached to the side of a horse's eyes. They prevent the horse from looking left or right, forcing the horse to only look straight ahead. If you put blinders on in your studies, it means you intentionally block out distractions. You ignore the thousands of YouTube videos teaching 50 different accents, and you focus straight ahead on the one specific accent you actually need for your career. That is incredibly powerful advice, Peter. It relieves so much pressure. Students feel like they have to master the entire English language, but they really only need to master the specific dialect of their immediate environment.
Precisely. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be effective. Let us do one final practical drill to cement this mindset. Daisy, I want you to give me a classic British connected speech sentence, something very fast and informal, and I will try to decode it like an American student.
Oh, I love this game. All right, let me think of something truly terrifying for an American to hear. Okay, here's a phrase you might hear in a pub in East London. I'm going to say it at natural connected speed. You tell me what I'm saying. Ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
I'm gonna go have a cup of tea.
Wow, okay, let me analyze that acoustic disaster. I'm gonna go have a cup of tea. You drop the G entirely from going to, turning it into unna. You used a glottal stop on the word have, erasing the H, turning it into av. You blended cup of into cuppa, and you used another glottal stop somewhere near the T. If I'm an ESL student, I'm currently packing my bags and moving home.
Exactly. Let me break it down very slowly for our brave listeners who are still with us. The textbook sentence is, I'm going to go have a cup of tea. Step 1, I'm going to becomes I'm gonna. Step 2, we drop the H in have. In working class British English, dropping the H at the beginning of words is incredibly common, so have becomes av. Step 3, we link the words. Go av becomes go wav, using that invisible Y glide we talked about earlier. Step 4, cup of becomes cuppa, cuppa. Put it all together and you get I'm gonna go wav a cup of tea. I'm gonna go have a cup of tea.
And this is the magic of the mortar, Daisy. The words are just bricks. The grammar is just the blueprint. But the mortar, the messy, fluid, glorious mortar of connected speech, is what actually builds the house. If the listeners take only one thing away from our massive discussion today, let it be this. Stop fighting the mortar. Stop judging yourself for not sounding like a dictionary. The dictionary is a book. It is dead. Language is a living, breathing creature, and you have to learn how it moves.
A living, breathing creature. What a beautiful way to describe it. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We have analyzed consonant to vowel linking. We have debated the American flap T versus the British Glottal Stop. We have explored the intrusive R and the invisible glides. And we have done intense emotional drills to rewire your brain's cognitive load.
And we've established that you must drop your perfectionism, put your blinders on, and accept that learning English is a messy, full-contact sport. You are no longer an outsider listening in. You now have the secret blueprint to the invisible glue.
Professor Peter Hanson, it has been an absolute privilege having you in the studio today. Your 30 years of experience in New York have brought immense value to our slow English community. To our listeners, your homework is simple. take one sentence from today's lesson, stand in front of a mirror, and shout it out loud in 4 different emotional tones. Don't be afraid to sound crazy. Be bold, be messy, and keep connecting your words. We'll see you in the next masterclass. Keep practicing.